What if the candy house wasn't a trap, but a home painted just for you? Once upon a time, on the far edge of a deep, endless forest, lived a poor woodcutter with his 2 children, Hansel and Gretel, and their stepmother. Their home was a crooked wooden hut, patched with straw and old cloth. In winter, the wind slipped in like a thief. In summer, raindrops tapped softly against the walls all night long. Life was never easy, but when a terrible famine swept the land, everything grew harder. The fields turned to dust, the bread oven stayed cold, and even the birds seemed to search for crumbs. The children's hands, once warm from chores, grew thin and pale. At night, their small breaths sounded louder than the silence. Hunger was no longer just in their bellies, it lived quietly in their thoughts. The stepmother's voice grew sharper each day. "There's not enough for all of us," she told their father. "If the children were gone, we might survive." From their small bed in the corner, the children heard every word. Hansel held his breath, his mind racing for a plan, while Gretel clutched the blanket, wishing the night would hide them forever. The father's silence was heavier than any storm. And so, one pale morning, Hansel and Gretel were led into the forest, farther than they had ever gone before. The first time, Hansel secretly filled his pockets with smooth white pebbles he had found near their house. As they walked into the forest, he quietly dropped them one by one, each stone shining faintly under the rising moon. That night, when darkness wrapped the trees, the moonlight touched the pebbles, turning them into a trail of tiny silver stars. Following that gentle light, Hansel and Gretel found their way home. But the second time, there were no stones, only crumbs of bread from their last piece. Hansel scattered them carefully, hoping they would guide them back again. Yet long before the sun had set, the forest birds came fluttering down, their wings whispering as they pecked away every crumb. By the time night fell, the trail was gone, and the forest seemed larger and quieter than ever. The forest closed around them like a gentle but endless sea. Moss softened their steps, pine needles whispered softly underfoot. The air smelled of earth and rain. By day, the trees stood like quiet guards. By night, their shadows became watchful giants. Hunger ached like a hollow drum. They shared the last crust of bread, each pretending they weren't still hungry. Sometimes, they thought they heard voices, but it was only the wind weaving through the branches. Then came a scent, warm, sweet, and rich. It wrapped around them like a ribbon, pulling them forward. Through the trees, they saw it, a house made of candy and gingerbread. Hansel's mouth watered, and Gretel's eyes lit up. They had heard whispers of a witch who lured children inside with sweets, only to keep them forever. But hunger can make even danger seem kind. Just as Hansel stepped closer, a soft rainbow light drifted through the air. From the shadows stepped Luan the Unicorn, her rainbow-colored mane flowing like dawn, and her horn glowing gently in the colors of a rainbow. "It does smell sweet, doesn't it?" Luan's eyes flicked to the candy house in the distance. "But sweetness should make you feel safe, not trap you. Let's make one that's truly yours." She knelt on the grass, unrolled a blank sheet, and dipped her rainbow brush into the air. With each slow, careful stroke, a cottage took shape, its roof sprinkled with sugar stars, a path paved with chocolate stones, a lollipop lantern glowing warmly beside the window. When the last stroke was done, the colors swirled together like a rainbow caught in the wind. The cottage shimmered and lifted from the page, its sugar-dusted roof catching the sunlight, its chocolate path still warm, as if it had just been baked. Gretel gasped softly, while Hansel touched the candy cane arch, feeling its smooth, cool surface. Every piece here was painted for you, bread that will never run out, walls that will always keep you warm. This is your place now, and no one can take it away. That night, the fire crackled softly, like a lullaby, while its light danced gently on the walls. The scent of warm bread wrapped the room in comfort, and bowls of sweet berries sat beside cups of milk. Hansel ate slowly, as if the food might disappear if he hurried. Gretel hummed a soft tune, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in months. Outside, the wind passed gently by, unable to enter. That night, they slept without fear, their dreams quiet and whole. Days turned to weeks. Morning sunlight streamed through the lollipop lantern, waking them gently. They learned to grow vegetables in the clearing, planting seeds with hands that once searched only for crumbs. They fetched water from the stream, laughing when it splashed their feet. They baked bread, filling the house with the fragrance of effort and safety. Far away, the witch's candy house still stood, but its false promises faded like mist under the morning sun. No one ever came searching. Yet each morning, sunlight would rest gently on the sugar stars above their roof, and each night, the wind could not find its way in. The days were counted in the scent of fresh bread cooling on the table, in the laughter that echoed at sunset, and in the warmth that lingered long after the fire went out. Without realizing it, Hansel and Gretel had built not just a house, but a tomorrow they could truly call their own. And in that little home, with bread on the table and laughter in the air, they knew they had found something storms could never take. When you plant your own roots, no storm can pull you away.